I thought I knew my family, especially my cousin. We grew up like brothers. But when I got a strange call about a property I never listed for sale, everything I believed about trust shattered. I always believed that family was unbreakable, that no matter what happened in life, success, failure, arguments, distance, blood would always hold us together, especially when it came to my cousin Rayan. Rayan and I grew up more like brothers than cousins. We lived 2 streets apart, shared toys, secrets, and even birthday parties. Our moms were sisters, inseparable in their own way, and we inherited that closeness. There was no part of my childhood that didn't have him in it. Even as adults, we stayed tight. While life had taken us down different roads, I went into construction and eventually invested in property while he bounced between jobs. We always found our way back to each other. We talked regularly, laughed over old memories, and supported each other during tough times. So when I inherited a small rental property from my late uncle, a man who'd mentored me in real estate, it never crossed my mind that this gift could drive a wedge between us. I was grateful. It wasn't a mansion, but it was a solid place in a growing part of town. I planned to hold on to it, maybe renovate and increase its value. Rayan congratulated me with a warm hug the day I signed the title. "You deserve it, bro," he said. "You've worked hard for years. It's good to see you getting rewarded." And I believed him. Looking back, there were small things I ignored, little glances, offhand comments about wasted opportunities and luck always finding me. But in the moment, I saw only the good. I thought if I won, we all won. That's how I was raised: to share, to trust, to protect family. I even let Rayan crash at the property once for a couple of weeks while he was between apartments. I didn't charge him rent, didn't even think about it. He was family, that's what you do. Back then, everything felt simple, solid, like life was finally lining up the way I'd hoped: stable income, growing investments, and a support system I didn't question. But that's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't start with a slap, it starts with a smile. The house wasn't glamorous. A modest 2-bedroom, 1-bath place on a quiet corner lot, the kind of home you might pass without a second glance. But to me, it meant more than square footage. It was the last thing my uncle left behind, and he left it to me. Not to be sold, not to be flipped, but to be held and taken care of. He'd been a quiet man, the kind who didn't say much but always noticed everything. He helped raise me after my father passed, taught me how to fix a leaking faucet, patch drywall, negotiate calmly. He saw something in me early on, a kind of grit maybe, and he'd told me once, "One day you're going to build a life with your hands. Just don't let anyone take it from you." I didn't understand what he meant back then. I do now. When I inherited the house, I felt a strange mix of sadness and pride. I wasn't expecting it. My uncle had no children of his own, but he had plenty of nieces and nephews. He could have left it to anyone, but he chose me. It made me more focused. I started drawing up a plan to renovate it myself, slow and steady, doing most of the labor on weekends. I even thought about turning it into a rental, maybe getting a little passive income. That's when things between me and Rayan began to shift. At first, it was subtle. He started making jokes about how I was always the lucky one and how some people just get handed everything. I brushed it off. Rayan had been through some tough years, dead-end jobs, a rough breakup, and I figured it was just his way of venting. Still, something about his tone was different, sharper. He started asking questions about the property, who held the title, how I planned to renovate if I had insurance. I didn't think much of it. To me, it was just conversation. Then he offered to help, to find contractors, even to manage the renovation while I focused on other projects. I thanked him, but I told him I preferred to do it myself. It was personal. He nodded, smiled, and said, "Of course, man, you know I got your back." I believed him. But somewhere beneath that smile, something was shifting, something I didn't see until it was nearly too late. It started with little things. I'd swing by the property on weekends to check the place, and sometimes I'd find the front gate unlocked, even though I was sure I'd closed it. Once I noticed the porch light was on, and I hadn't touched the switch in weeks. I thought maybe I was just forgetting. Life had been busy, and I wasn't living there full time, so it was possible I'd left a light on or been careless with the lock. But the feeling in my gut said otherwise. Then Rayan began showing up at the property without calling me first. "I was just in the area," he'd say, waving it off. "Wanted to make sure no one was messing with the place." He always had a reason, a friendly excuse. But the way he looked around the house, it was different, like he was evaluating it, not visiting it. One time he asked if he could keep some tools in the garage for a few weeks. He had nowhere else to store them, he claimed. I hesitated but agreed. I didn't want to seem paranoid. Still, I started locking the gate with a new padlock. Changed the locks on the main doors too, just in case. I didn't tell him. A week later, he called me late at night. "Hey man," he said, "did you change the locks or something?" I paused. "Yeah, why?" There was a beat of silence. "Oh, no reason. Just went by to grab something and my key didn't work." Something tightened in my chest. "Why were you there at night?" "I just needed one of my tools. Thought I'd swing by. Sorry, should have called." He laughed it off, but there was a weird tension behind his voice. That call stuck with me. A few days after, I got a letter from a real estate agency, addressed to me, confirming receipt of your inquiry to list your property. My heart nearly stopped. I never contacted any agency. At first, I thought it was junk mail, but something about the timing, it didn't feel right. I called the number on the letter. The woman who answered said a Rayan Patel had submitted preliminary documents with my property address, claiming to represent the owner. He even provided a copy of what looked like a signed title. I felt my mouth go dry. I hadn't signed anything. Something was happening, something I hadn't prepared for. And the worst part, it was coming from the one person I never expected. I hung up the phone and just sat there, frozen. My mind was racing, but my body couldn't move. A copy of a signed title, my name, my property, and Rayan submitted it. There had to be some kind of mistake. Maybe it was a prank or a misunderstanding. But deep down, I knew it was. That weird feeling I'd been trying to ignore, it had just exploded into full-blown panic. I pulled out the file I kept locked in my desk drawer, the one with all the property documents my uncle left me. Title deed, transfer forms, insurance info, everything was still there. My original paperwork was intact, legally filed, clean. But that didn't matter if someone was trying to fake their way around it. The next morning, I drove straight to the county clerk's office. I explained what had happened, and a kind but tired-looking woman helped me pull up the public title records for the property. My name was still listed as the rightful owner, thank God. But she did raise an eyebrow when I asked if anyone had recently requested a title change. "There was a flagged request last week," she said, scanning her screen. "It didn't go through, system caught some inconsistencies. That's probably why you got the letter." I asked if I could see what was submitted. She hesitated. "Technically, you have a right to review anything tied to your property." She printed the documents and slid them across the counter. When I looked down, my blood turned cold. There was a forged version of the title deed. It had my name, but the signature wasn't mine. Close, but not quite, like someone had copied it from a form or a lease agreement. It was sloppy, but it almost worked. I couldn't believe it. Rayan had actually tried to transfer ownership of the house behind my back, without telling me, using forged documents. I drove home in silence. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. How long had he been planning this? All those questions about the deed, the casual drop-ins, the fake concern over renovation, it all made sense now. It wasn't just betrayal, it was calculated. I didn't want to believe it, but the paper trail didn't lie. I sat down at my kitchen table, placed the forged documents in front of me, and stared at them for a long time. I wasn't just dealing with a sneaky cousin anymore. I was dealing with a crime. And now I had a decision to make: stay quiet and protect the family name, or confront him and risk blowing it all apart. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there staring at the ceiling, my thoughts spiraling. Every memory of Rayan, our childhood bike rides, family dinners, all those I got your back moments, played on repeat in my head. And all of it was now stained with this bitter aftertaste of betrayal. By morning, I'd made up my mind. I had to confront him, not with rage, not with violence, but with truth. I wanted answers. I called him. "Hey, can you come by my place?" I asked. "Need to talk, it's important." He hesitated. "Sure, everything okay?" "Not really." He showed up about 40 minutes later, casual as ever, like it was just another normal day. I watched him walk in, hands in his pockets, calm face. He had no idea what was coming. I sat him down at the dining table. No small talk. I placed the forged title deed between us like a loaded gun. "What the hell is this?" He froze, his eyes scanned the paper. For a second, just a flicker, his mask dropped. I saw that panic behind his eyes, but it vanished quickly. He leaned back and let out a short laugh. Man, I don't know what that is. Never seen it before. Don't lie to me, Rayan. I spoke to the county office. You submitted it. You used my name, my signature. You tried to flip the property behind my back. His mouth tightened, the silence stretched. I thought you weren't doing anything with it, he muttered. It was just sitting there. I figured I could help move it. I needed the money. By stealing it? I wasn't stealing, I was going to talk to you once it went through. I just wanted a cut, bro. That place should have been mine too. My chest burned. It wasn't yours, it was never promised to you. He left it to me, and you tried to take it like a thief. His voice rose. You've always had everything, man. I've been stuck while you keep rising. I just wanted one thing to go my way. I stood up, my voice low but shaking. So you stabbed me in the back because you were jealous. He didn't answer, just looked away. There was nothing left to say. I don't want to see you again, I said quietly. You crossed a line that can't be undone. As he walked out the door, something in me cracked. The bond we'd built over decades shattered in a single moment of betrayal. I was heartbroken, but more than that, I was angry. And now I was going to find out just how deep this went, and make damn sure he didn't get away with it. After Rayan left, I sat alone in my living room for hours, barely moving. I wasn't just hurt, I felt exposed, violated. Someone I trusted with my life had tried to quietly rob me, and if it weren't for one system flag and a stray letter, he might have gotten away with it. That thought haunted me. The next morning, I drove back to the county office, this time more determined than confused. I asked the clerk if there was any way to track exactly what documents had been submitted, who filed them, and when. She explained that most of it was digital now. Forms could be submitted online, scanned, and uploaded. I asked if I could see the metadata, anything that might link the submission to a specific IP address or device. She shook her head. That would need to go through the Title Fraud Investigation Unit. Want me to connect you? Yes, please. A few phone calls later, I was speaking to someone from the Title Fraud Detection Team. I explained everything, the forged deed, the attempted property transfer, the emotional history. The man on the other end of the line listened carefully. His tone was steady but serious. You're not the first, he said. These kinds of cases are becoming more common, especially with family members. It's easy to access public property records and fake paperwork if someone knows enough about you. That hit hard. He told me that since the attempt had already been flagged by the system, they had an open case on it. The forged deed was being reviewed. The digital submission had already triggered suspicion, mismatched dates, signature inconsistencies, and a metadata trail that didn't line up. I gave them Rayan's full name, his recent address, and copies of every document I had. I even remembered a random detail that Rayan once used my old printer when he was staying at my place. It had a scanning feature. That might have been how he copied my signature from some lease forms. The agent didn't confirm anything, but I could tell they took it seriously. He said, "We'll follow up with you soon, but for your safety, make sure no other properties you own are vulnerable. Lock everything down." I left that call with a new kind of fire in my chest. I wasn't just the victim of a betrayal anymore. I was part of an investigation. And as painful as it was, I wanted justice. Not just for me, but for every bit of trust that had been crushed under Rayan's lies. I never imagined I'd be sitting across from a fraud investigator, giving them everything I knew about my own cousin. But there I was, answering questions, handing over copies of texts, emails, anything that could help build the case. It was like something out of a bad movie, except it was real. Rayan wasn't just someone I grew up with. He was in our family photos, sat at our holiday table, toasted to my small wins, and once helped carry my mom's coffin when she passed. The idea of pressing charges, or even being involved in any kind of legal action against him, made me feel sick. But every time I second-guessed myself, I remembered that forged signature, that quiet attempt to erase me from my own property. The truth was simple. He didn't just try to take a house, he tried to take my future. And he didn't even have the guts to admit it. The investigator called me 2 days later. They confirmed that the documents had been uploaded from a device traced to a local IP address, one tied to Rayan's old apartment. It wasn't a smoking gun, but it was close. They were building a case. "What happens now?" I asked. "If we gather enough, he could be charged with attempted title fraud," the agent said. "But there's a process. It could take weeks, maybe months. You'll need to stay alert. If anything else happens, call us immediately." I thanked him, hung up, and sat in silence. That's when I got the message. A long, rambling text from Rayan. No apology, just excuses. He blamed stress, bad luck, feeling left behind. He said I didn't understand what it was like to watch someone else get everything while you struggled just to survive. "I thought you'd forgive me," he wrote. "We're blood, this doesn't have to go further." I stared at those words for a long time. Part of me wanted to scream. Another part, the softer, more naive part of me, just felt sad. But I didn't reply. He made a choice, and now so had I. That night I walked through the property, the one he tried to take, and something shifted inside me. I wasn't just protecting bricks and wood. I was protecting the life I had worked so hard to build. And if that meant turning my back on family, then so be it. The weeks that followed felt like walking through a storm with no clear end in sight. The legal process was slow, and every day I worried about what else Rayan might try. I had to stay vigilant, constantly checking for strange mail, calls, or visitors. I even installed cameras around the property to keep an eye on things. But it wasn't just the property I worried about. The damage was spreading in ways I hadn't expected. Family gatherings became unbearable. Whispers followed me like shadows. "Did you really take your cousin to court? Is it true what happened with the house?" I could see the hurt in my aunt's eyes, my mother's sister, torn between loyalty to her son and to me. Some relatives quietly took sides, while others stopped talking to me altogether. The family I thought was solid started to fracture like cracked glass. I tried to reach out to Rayan's parents, hoping to explain my side. But the conversations ended in silence or anger. They couldn't understand how their son could do something so cold, yet they wanted to protect him. It was one of the hardest parts, feeling isolated, even though I wasn't the one who betrayed trust. At the same time, I found unexpected strength in friends who stood by me without hesitation. They reminded me that family isn't just blood, it's respect, honesty, and kindness. In the quiet moments, I worked on the property, sanding walls, fixing broken windows, and slowly restoring what my uncle had left behind. It became a kind of therapy, rebuilding something tangible while I tried to rebuild my own trust in people. And through it all, I realized something important. Betrayal hurts the most when it comes from those you love, but healing starts with protecting yourself first. I wasn't sure what the final outcome would be with Rayan or the property, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let this break me. After what felt like an eternity of waiting, I finally got the call I'd been dreading and hoping for all at once. The title fraud investigation team had gathered enough evidence against Rayan. It was official. He was being charged with attempted title fraud and forgery. Hearing the news was a strange mix of relief and sorrow. Relief because justice was moving forward, but sorrow because it confirmed how deep the betrayal really was. The investigators told me they'd uncovered more than just the forged deed. Rayan had been quietly contacting some shady real estate agents, trying to push a sale without my knowledge. He'd been planning the whole thing for months. What hurt the most wasn't just the crime, it was the deception. The lies he told everyone, including me. I sat down with my closest friends and told them everything, the raw truth that had been hidden for so long. Their support grounded me when the family drama was unbearable. I also decided to reach out to Rayan one last time, not to argue or accuse, but to try and understand. I sent him a letter telling him I wanted to meet and talk face to face. Surprisingly, he agreed. When we met, I saw the weight of what he'd done in his eyes, guilt, shame, regret. He apologized, but words felt hollow after everything. I told him, "What you did broke more than trust. It broke us. I hope you find a way to fix yourself before you lose everyone else." He nodded silently, and we parted with no promises, only the bitter taste of what was lost. The court case would take its course, but for me, this was the turning point. The moment I reclaimed my peace, my future, and my dignity. I stood on the porch of that old house, looking out at the quiet street. This was my home, my legacy, and no one, not even family, would take that from me again. The weeks after the meeting with Rayan felt like a slow exhale. The weight of betrayal was still there, but it was no longer suffocating. The legal case moved forward, but I was no longer defined by the conflict. I was defined by what came after. I threw myself into restoring the property. What had once felt like a symbol of loss now became a symbol of hope. I painted the walls fresh white, planted a small garden in the backyard, and fixed up the porch where I used to sit with my uncle years ago. With each nail hammered, each brushstroke, I was reclaiming not just the house but my own strength. Friends started visiting more, bringing laughter and warmth that had been missing for so long. I even began entertaining the idea of moving back in, making this place a true home again. And slowly I began to forgive myself, for trusting, for hoping, for letting my guard down. I learned that betrayal from family cuts deep, but it doesn't have to define you. What defines you is how you rise after it, how you protect what's yours, stand for what's right, and move forward with your head held high. I won't pretend it's been easy. There are days when the hurt comes back, when I miss the cousin I thought I knew. But I also know now that I'm not alone. I have people who believe in me, a home worth fighting for, and a future still waiting to be built. As I stand on the porch, watching the sunset paint the sky with colors of promise, I finally feel something I haven't in a long time: peace. This is my story, a story of trust, betrayal, and ultimately a new beginning.